There we go.
Okay. So I was just discussing how the upsilon is the root for some English words. Hyper and hypo those prefixes come from the word huper and hupa. So whenever you talk about a hypodermic needle, or a hypodermic needle, that is where the needle goes relative to the dermis. It wouldn't make sense to have a hypodermic needle. Anyway. What's that? Yeah. So this is a prefix that means either below or above. Okay. Pretty common prefix that we bring over. It's also where a lot of our, whenever you talk about layers, if something is, without getting too technical, there's epi. Epi would be here. Hyper would be here. Hypo would be here. If this is the dermis. So epi is above even the hyper. Okay. The next letters, since I have a connection again, the next letters are probably the four most odd sounding letters in the Greek alphabet. And the other ones, you can kind of find a relationship to the English equivalent. With these, you sort of just have to memorize them. Okay. So the first of these is phi. So phi, there's a couple different ways to draw it. The simplest way is just a circle with a line through it. If you're writing a lot quickly, sometimes it's easier to do half a circle, come up, and then come back down like that. I believe the UBS 5 does use this form of it. You'll see it both ways. So the phi, spelled like this, and it makes the PH sound as in phone. The transliteration is a PH. Okay? So instead of having an F, they have a phi. And in both, what's that?
Elijah pointed out to me a long time ago how the fee looks like a coin going into a slot, like you're paying a fee. That's a good way to remember, you know, as opposed to remembering the theta.
I can see that. It doesn't work as well with this other way of drawing it, but for this way, it does look like a coin going into a slot. Okay? So that's phi. The next letter is chi. I don't know how well that's going to come across the mic, but it's similar to the CH in lock. So, let me get that drawn. The key looks like this, and usually a little bit of the key comes below the line. Okay? Spelled like that. And as I said, it's the CH in Lach. Kind of similar. Kind of similar to heh, but not exactly the same. And when that's transliterated, it comes across as a CH. If you have trouble making that kind of swallowing your spit sound, the CH at the beginning of Christ is similar enough that people will know what you're talking about if you pronounce it that way. Any problem with that one? And I didn't make this super clear. The key is kind of stylized, where you've got this kind of swerve here and then a straight line there. The reason I say that is because that distinguishes it from the capital, which is just like an X. Okay? The next letter is the psi. The psi kind of looks like a trident, spelled like this. And the psi is pronounced like the PS in lips. When it's transliterated, it comes across as a PS. The last letter of the Greek alphabet is omega. You can either do it like that or like this. I've seen it done both ways. It is slightly different than a regular W because this part is supposed to be slightly wider than the other two limbs. Omega is spelled the way it sounds. It's pronounced like the O in tone, and the transliteration is O with a macron on it. Does anyone remember what the other letter was when we transliterated it that had a macron on it?
Wow. Ada.
Ada. Do you want to take a guess based on what I told you about Ada, the significance of the macron on omega is?
Well, in my notes, I've got down that it's an E-class vowel.
Okay.
Okay.
You have written down something else I said about it is always a something vowel?
Long.
Long. So Ada is always a long vowel. Omega is always a long vowel. Everyone got that? That's all the letters. So we've learned from alpha to omega. Now it's time to learn some words. And I want to teach you some words that are kind of useful because, first off, it'll help you learn some of the capitals a little bit better. And also, it will help with the learning the letters and learning some words. Okay? So, who wants to go first?
I will.
Okay. Ralphie's the only one with any courage. All right, Ralphie. What do you think this word is?
I know the first letter a delta.
Yes.
Is it Dan?
It is Dan. In the Greek New Testament, that is how Dan is spelled.
How would we pronounce it?
Don. Okay. Who wants to go next?
Kana. Kana. No. Kana.
Everybody talk at once.
Come on, Jigger.
You got it. It's on you now.
Kana.
Kana, but yes.
You got it right. Okay, wait, I muted it.
Cana of Galilee. That's that word. That's how you'll see it in John. Okay.
What's the accent on the second syllable?
So these are transliterations of Aramaic words, and they're kind of fast and loose with where they put the accents. This one has to be here because it's the only vowel. I have seen different manuscripts put it in different places. Usually it's on the Ultima, and that has to do with the rules of putting accents. Generally, nouns like to have the accent on the last syllable. So it's kana. You will see kana or kana, but kana is the one that appears in the most manuscripts I've seen. And I believe in UBS 5, this is the one that they chose.
Kana. Kana. Or Kana. Kana. Which means Anna. Is that Anna?
Chris, what's this?
Anna?
She already spoke. Yes, Anna.
Anna.
Okay.
Maria. Maria.
I think the accent's on the Yoda. I was looking in this book. It doesn't have everything. I believe it.
Maria.
Maria. Yeah. So this one is
Mary.
Mary.
Abraham.
Abram.
So
Yes,
we haven't gone through syllabization yet. But the way this works is every syllable only has one vowel or one vowel sound. So this would be ab, ra, am. Can everybody see why it's that way? We have three vowels. Therefore, there has to be three syllables. We'll go over this a little bit more whenever we talk about pronunciation next week. But anyone want to guess what this one is now that I've showed you that?
Abraham.
Yeah, this is Abraham. I don't think Abram is used in the New Testament, but it is in the Septuagint, and that would just be there. Abram.
Satan. Satanas. Satanas. Yep. Satan.
Satanas, which is
Satan.
Satan.
That's good.
Okay.
Italy.
Italy. Italia. If you take it and make it Itales, Italian. So, when is an important time that this word comes up in the New Testament? Besides Paul's trips, that's the obvious one. Is there a particular person who had a relationship with an Italian group of people? Maybe an Italian band?
The Italian Guard.
Right. Who was that? Who was in charge of the Italian band?
Cornelius.
Cornelius. Yes. Like I said, these are all words that do actually appear. Okay.
Petros, Peter.
Petros is Peter.
Marcos, Mark.
Isaac. James?
So it's Isaac.
I said Isaac.
So it's Isaac, but the way you would pronounce that would be Isaac. Now, I have no firm evidence to confirm this, but everyone I've talked to who's an Old Testament scholar says that whenever a native Aramaic or native Hebrew speaker would have seen this, they would have automatically pronounced it like you would the Hebrew form, but that's the way it comes over in English. Let's see. Here's one.
Abel.
So it is Abel. How would you pronounce it?
Abel.
Yeah, Abel. So kind of like that. Okay. Everyone feel fairly comfortable with at least what sounds the letters make? More or less? What's that?
I said that helps putting the capital letters, uppercase, whatever, from time to time.
Yeah, like I said, you usually won't see them, but there are, with some of the names, you will sometimes see them. Even at the beginning of sentences, they don't always use capital letters. All right. So we're going to start by learning 10 words tonight, okay? Everyone ready? So these I have no expectation for you to remember, okay? We're going to start with the ones that I want you to learn. The first one, and we're going to go over this a little bit more next week so you understand pronunciation better. For right now, just listen to how I say it, and I'll explain more of that next week. The first word I want you to learn is ha. The ha is the definite article. Which most commonly means it's the word the. The reason I say it that way is it can also sometimes be he, she, it, him, her, one, this or that. It has sort of a fluid meaning based on context. What you really need to know, though, is that it usually is the, and it's the definite article. Now, the is the English definite article. You might not have known that. Today, you need to learn that the is the definite article in English. While we're on that note, the indefinite article in English is what? Indefinite article? Did somebody say it?
See? Ah.
I can't hear what you're saying.
A. So, you say I say a. But yes, this is the English indefinite article. There is no Greek indefinite article. If someone tells you and makes an argument that the Bible says a and not the in the New Testament, stop listening to anything they say after they open their mouth. There is no a in Greek. That is a word that is added for clarification for whenever it doesn't make sense in English. So, one of my soapboxy type things. But I've heard people make an argument based on either the presence or absence of the definite article to make an argument. It doesn't work that way. Okay? Ha. The reason it's ha and not ah is this. This is called a rough breathing. We'll talk about that later. But for right now, just remember that this word is ha. We already talked about this one. What's this?
And
And. And the word is
Kai.
kai.
I.
So kai is and or also. And something I want you to know is sometimes it's the equivalent to a comma. A good example of this is Ephesians 1, I think it's 3 through 17, is all one sentence. And the only way that Paul separates the different clauses is by using a series of kais, which is really, really good Greek, but it's terrible English. So if you're writing a paper for somebody, you shouldn't use a 15 verse long sentence. Okay? The root meaning, though, is and. But I go ahead and put also on there because there's a few times whenever you, especially if you see Kai something and then Kai again, a lot of times it's saying and, like Jesus also. Does that make sense? If you see two in a series like that, usually the second one is supposed to be also. All right. We've talked about this word some. Logos, which is the word for word,
So
but it can also mean statements, idea, or thesis. I guess it can also mean sentence, but it has the concept of a complete thought. So, word or an idea, whether spoken or unspoken. Okay? Those three I think we've at least talked about a little bit. Oh, my one book doesn't have the accents in it. Anyone want to take a guess of what this word means?
Heart.
Heart. Anyone have any useful ways you can remember that this word means heart?
Cardiologist.
Okay. So the cardi is from this word. And anyone know what that stands for?
Echocardiogram.
Anyone?
Echocardiogram.
Close. It's an electrocardiogram.
Electrocardiogram.
So the reason why it's like this, and most of the time whenever you see it spelled in English, they will replace it with a C. In German, they use the K from this word. And a German physician invented the EKG. Okay? So we've got ha, which means the. We have kai, which means and. We have logos, which means word. And we have cardia, which means heart. That's stuck. There we go. It will not advance. Oh, it's going on slides. Okay. Give me 1 second. I don't have my key with the accents on it, but I believe it's on the omega. I'll send out an email with all the words that I want you to know in it. I think it's on the omega, though. Does anybody know what this word means?
Man.
That would be an acceptable translation, but that's not the word I would use to translate this.
Human?
Yeah, human, person. The reason why I say that, this word is very specific. This is a male human. A lot of the confusion that has been brought on by some of the different translations comes from the fact that this word was often translated as man. Well, this word can mean man, and it can mean specifically a man. For example, whenever in John 1 it says, there was a man sent from God whose name was John. He was not the light, but he came to bear witness to the light. The word used there is anthropos. So since we've used the word to describe John, a male, the word does in that context mean a man. You could just as easily translate it, though, there was a person sent from God named John. It just doesn't make the way that we use the term person, it comes out kind of funny in English. So we're going to learn a rule right now that's going to be important for the rest of the entire time we're looking at these. When you're doing your translation, let context be your guide. Yes, it is perfectly acceptable to say there was a person sent from God. But in English, we wouldn't really say it that way. That's why if you ever see a translation, after the translation is done, they hand the translation over to a bunch of English linguists to make sure the way the translators had it makes good sense in English. Okay? 4 more.
God.
Someone said it. Theos is God. And I don't know who all was in the discussion with me and Dr. Cloud. He argues that the word theos should be thought of as divine. And he says that he believes that John 1:1 should be, in the beginning was the word was divine, and the divine one was, and the word was the divine one. I can see why an Old Testament scholar would say that, because when you look at the Septuagint, that would be a very good way to render the way that this term is usually used. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying I wouldn't have come up with that if he wouldn't have told me that. It also can be deity or little g God. Once again, based on the context.
Cosmos. 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 Cosmos.
So the iPad is set to pick up whispering. So we can hear everything you say. If you want to not be heard, there's a little, you see that microphone? If you click that and turn it from green to orange, nobody will hear you. Okay. But yes, it is cosmos. Does anyone know what cosmos means?
Earth universe.
I would say
Earth or universe?
world,
World.
universe. The reason I say this word, gain, is usually translated as earth, both earth like that and earth like that. If you wanted to translate it earth, I don't think anyone would argue with you. But traditionally, it's been translated world, like love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. Those sort of like First John 1, those sort of things. Usually, world is put that way, and then gain is usually used to refer. The way I think of it is this is sort of like the whole when we think about things like people of the world. We're talking about the world and all the things in it. Gain is generally talking about the physical part of the earth, not the people in it, but the actual earth, the ball that we live on. That being said, there's different places where either one would be acceptable. But for the purpose, world is the main way to translate cosmos. It can also mean the cosmos, basically all of God's creation. Once again, context kind of dictates how you're going to render that. I promised you 2 more, right? So this is a smooth breathing, so it doesn't affect pronunciation. Anyone know this word?
Ego.
Ego. What does ego mean?
Self. I.
Yeah. It can mean self. That kind of depends on the context, but usually it would be like, oh, if I said, so you don't need the noun to know that this word means I am. When you put the noun, it adds emphasis. It would be like saying I myself am. Anyone think of any term that we might relate to this word?
Ego.
Yeah. Ego comes from ego. Let's do this one. This one's a pretty easy one to remember.
Sophia.
Close.
Sophia.
Yeah. Sophia.
Sophia.
Anyone know what Sophia means?
Wisdom.
Wisdom. Okay. Everyone got a fairly good handle on those? At least some idea? Okay.